Thanks, Ken. The joy of technology, if it works right. Preparing for this message this morning, I happened to read a funny story about the gospel reading. The pastor is a female pastor who describes her son sitting in Sunday school and hearing the story about Jesus being tempted in the wilderness. Her son came out of Sunday school and he said to his mom, "You know, that devil, he's a very, very bad guy, Mommy. He tempted Jesus to do things that he shouldn't." The little boy stopped and said, "You know what? When we're in the grocery store and you're in one aisle and I'm in the other aisle, sometimes the devil tempts me too." And the mom goes, "What are you talking about?" She said, "Well, sometimes," the little boy says, "I think the devil tempts me to eat some candy off the shelf without paying for it." The mother at this point is not sure where to go with the story. I mean, she's happy that her son was paying attention to the story, and he was so creative. But the story is more complex than that, and she wants to express it, but doesn't really know how. So she just says, "And what do we say to the devil when the devil tempts us with stuff like that?" The little boy thought for a moment, and he says, "Do we say thank you?" Do we say thank you? It's a great question. We are starting into Lent here, ladies and gentlemen. It's 40 days long and 40 nights. And that mimics the number 40 used so often in biblical references. Jesus is tempted in the wilderness for 40 days. Noah and the animals endure 40 days and 40 nights of rain. 40 days is oftentimes the length of time when some people say that they are at their wits' end. I had some people tell me, and you parents would know this, when their children were going through the terrible twos, just about drove them out of the house screaming. I would liken that time period to their 40 days when they would give nearly anything to have the kids stop. Or perhaps, Chad and Erica know this, the teenage years are more like for the teens, wishing that their parents would just get out of their business long enough to let them live a little. Now, these are lighthearted examples and aren't very accurate to the same type of temptation, the same type of 40 days that we have here in the gospel reading or that we have heard today in Lent. I read a reflection by a lady by the name of Barbara Brown Taylor, who's an Episcopal pastor and author. And she points that she believes that we all are addicted to something. Now think about that. It might be food, alcohol, cigarettes, shopping, negativism, cynicism, work, taking care of people, or in Larry Harter's case, Wendy's Frosties. I can be driving down the road and I go past the Wendy's and all of a sudden my pickup truck pulls in there and I don't know how it got there, but by golly, we're going to get a Frosty. If Miss Taylor is correct that perhaps the 40 days of most of our lives comes only when we give those things up. And we would just give anything to have a reprieve, to be offered a sanctuary. We just give about anything to say thank you and to give in to the temptations. Traditionally, people have given up things for Lent, only to start taking them back up after Lent is over. I've gotten the habit from after talking to Pastor Tim Lehman that instead of giving up things, I encourage people to take up things. Take up more prayer, take up Bible study, meditation, something that you can continue to do after Lent's over. The problem with just giving something up is that you have the expectation that as soon as the 40 days is over, you can start it back up. You have the experience to say, thank you. Again, to that drink and to that cigarette, to that fatty food, or to that delicious, delicious Frosty on Sunday morning. So what was the patience, the practice for in the first place? Jesus is out in the wilderness. He's fasting. He's tempted by the accuser. First, to take some stones and make bread. It says in the scriptures, if you are the Son of God, why are you giving things up? Feel your desire and make these stones bread. To what Jesus says, sorry, accuser, we're going to have to break up. It's not you, it's me. You see, I believe in God, who makes it clear that all bread in the world will never really satisfy for what I long for. I'm not going to have anybody raise their hands, but you think back to your own personal life. Maybe you dated that guy or that girl, and they came to you and they said, yeah, you know what? We're going to have to break up. Oh, it's not you. It's me. And I was asking Norma this morning how her and Jack got together years ago, and she said their first date was when Jack took her home from the basketball game. And they stayed together. And so we go to another place, and the accuser steps up his game. He says, see this world? It's mine. I'll give it to you if you bend your knee to me. To which Jesus said, sorry, accuser. We have to break up. Now, it's not you, it's me. You see, I believe in a God who makes it clear that power comes not in dominating, but in self-giving love, not by force, but by the way of the cross. And so they go on to the top of the temple, the holiest place of all. And the accuser is playing his trump card, his greatest card. If you are the Son of God, he says, you can do anything you want. Be who you say you are and show everyone your true colors. To what Jesus says, sorry, accuser. We have to break up. It's not you, it's me. You see, I believe in a God who is seen in the opposite of what you expect. Not in daring feats of power, but in daring feats of humility. Our addictions promise us satisfaction. Our addictions promise us power. Our addictions tell us what we can do whenever we want. They accuse us of being weak, of not using our potential, of not being who we are without them. In Lent, it is a time where we realize that those 40 days, those wits' ends, if you might say, of a wilderness journey only leads us to our addictions back at the end to say, thank you. I miss the false satisfaction, the false power, the false identity. We haven't broken up with our addiction. We have simply taken a vacation. Instead, perhaps we should take a look at Christ, who gives us a glance of who God is. A God who feeds 5,000 rather than just one. God who elevates the powerless rather than grab the power. A God who showed identity through the self-loving of the cross and thereby beat death. Rather than simply saving himself, flying above death on angels' wings. That Christ, that God showed through the Christ, fill us with true satisfaction. Has taught us the nature of power, has given us an identity to baptize that allows us to stay to those things that hold us in its grasp. The alcohol, the fat food, maybe gambling addictions, or maybe just self-pity for what you go through in your life. I'm sorry, it's not you, it's me. For you see, I'm a child of God, and the fake satisfaction, the fictional power, the false identity that you want to give to me, I just won't cut it. Oh, it's tempting, but it's not me. I was asked a question here a while back if I play the lottery, and I said, oh, occasionally I do. Do you anticipate really getting a lot? And I go, not really. It's just I have a couple extra bucks, and temptation said, hey, go ahead. What would you do if you did win? I'd run and dig a hole and hide in it, because your life would be so topsy-turvy. We live a good life here in the communities. rural community. Oh, it would be nice. The temptation would be nice. Go on vacations and buy things for people and yourselves. But does that really draw you closer to the real reason you're here? Now, I'm not saying all people would have a problem with it, but most of them do. And if you look at most of the records and the research, most of those who have won that big money, they're more broke today than what they were before. The temptations and the accuser has led them astray. So say to him, we got to break up. It's not you, it's me. Sure, the 40 days of life are tough. We are at our wits' end. We hear from those things that hold us up that we have and wouldn't be complete without sometimes, we think. And sometimes giving up those things makes us feel empty for a while. But God has not created us for false satisfaction or false identities. God has created us for life, and life abundantly, in the hands of a God who doesn't provide false temptations, but true life. And what can we say to a God like that? Thank you. Amen.